you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iron Lady sings, that means we're turning into an AI mode, and we'll probably have robots doing me and my job next week. That way I can sit home and just eat Cheetos in my beanbag naked all day playing video games. Speaking of video games, we've got a gentleman we're going to be talking about some of his past in video games and design and how he's used that to thread into being a serial nonfiction book author. So we'll get into some of that. But in the meantime, we must endear you with as much guilt, shame, and whatever we can get to get you to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, and YouTube.com/Chris Voss. I don't know why I did that, but I did it. So there it is. You'll just have to deal with it, people, because it's my show. Anyway, guys, we had an amazing young man on this show. We're talking about his most interesting book that is hitting the bookshelves and tearing up the charts of top book sales. And as soon as I can find which tab is the thing is blocking, I will tell you what it is. But I just wanted to build up some suspense there. It is entitled The Blockchain Syndicate, a contemporary thriller, out October 21st, 2025. Robbie Bach joins us on the show with us today. We're going to talk about his insightful book that's part of a series, and you're going to be entertained, or else. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Why do you threaten your audience, Chris? I don't know. It seems fun. Robbie is best known for founding and leading the team that created the Xbox. You may have heard of it from a small company named Microsoft. Today, he is an entertaining storyteller and catalyzing voice who writes books and speaks to audiences on leadership, strategy, creativity, and civic issues. Robbie joined Microsoft in 1988. That's weird because he looks like he's about 30 years old. Anyway, over the next 22 years, he worked in various marketing and business management roles, including supporting the successful launch and expansion of Microsoft Office. He was the chief Xbox officer. He led the creation and development of the Xbox business, including the launch of the Xbox and highly popular successor Xbox 360, as well as the Xbox Live gaming platform. Then as Microsoft's president of the Entertainment and Devices Division, he was responsible for the company's worldwide gaming, music, video, phone, and retail sales business until he retired in 2010. Welcome to the show, Robbie. How are you?
Really good, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Good to hear that introduction. That was quite a production. I love it.
1988. Were there even computers back then? No.
Barely. I was running on DOS. Nobody on your show will even know what DOS was. So I'll tell you how long ago it was.
Yeah. I'm old with you, man. I know what DOS is. I remember that. I remember when Windows came out. Like, it was really freaking cool, man. I think it was Windows 2.0 where it was officially Windows.
That's right. It started with Windows 2.0, and then the real big release was Windows 3. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, still better than Vista. No, I'm kidding. I'm doing jokes. Or was it Windows 7? 7
was better than Vista. That's the thing you wanted to know.
What was the one that came after Vista that was just as equally as bad? I'm throwing you under the bus for saying that.
After Vista was 7, and then there was Windows 8, which people weren't fans of, and then Windows 10 was a pretty good product.
Yeah, it's a journey. Give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Sure, they can find me at robbiebach.com. You can also find information on the books at blockchainsyndicate.com and wilksinsurrection.com. All that stuff is all linked together. And follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I do my writing. So you'll see I probably post something up there meaningful every couple of weeks.
And so you've written a thriller here. It leads off with, it doesn't lead off, but the billing does on the description. A dead man blackmails a U.S. senator. A Russian assassin leaves a trail of bodies. Wasn't me, folks. A cryptic criminal syndicate unleashes financial chaos. A courageous war hero saves her family and her country. Boy, that sounds like a lot packed into a book there.
It is a lot packed into a book, but that's sort of that's what makes thrillers. You got to be able to constantly be turning the page, baby. That's the secret to the genre.
Turning them pages. That's what I'm going to name my next book. Turning them pages, or I don't know what the hell I'm going on about. So give us now this is a part in a series. This is the second part of the series. Do I understand?
Yeah. The first book was the Wilkes Insurrection. Same main character, a woman named Tamika Smith. She starts in the first book as a major in the Air Force Reserve, and in our second book here, the Blockchain Syndicate, she's a U.S. senator. So she has a lot of responsibility and a lot of interesting things to coming across her plate, so to speak.
I've done the Russian assassin thing. I left a trail behind me, not bodies, but mostly tacos. Tell me more about this Tamika. Who is she, and kind of what she is up to there in your thriller?
So Tamika starts as a Air Force reservist. In the first book, there's a plane crash at her Air Force base. She rescues somebody on the plane crash, and as the plot unrolls, there's a domestic terrorist, let's say, who's trying to disrupt the country, and he does 5 or 6 attacks in the U.S. And those end up revolving around Tamika and her life and her family. And she has to dig in and try to help the FBI figure out who committed the crimes. And so that's the plot of the first story. It's a domestic anarchist who's attacking the country. In the second book, the Blockchain Syndicate, think of it like a mafia boss creating his mafia family, attacking the U.S. government. Except the one important thing is, because the mafia boss is hiding behind blockchain, it's impossible to know who he or she is. And by the way, he doesn't know who the rest of the people in his mafia family are, and they don't know who he is.
Oh, really?
So it's an anonymous crime syndicate. Think of it that way.
Anonymous crime. Isn't it a little hard to lead if you don't know who the boss is?
He knows who the boss is.
Oh, okay.
So he's the one. Yeah. He's the one in charge of the syndicate, and so he's directing people. And as the plot unrolls, our good guys are trying to figure out who is this guy, where is he from, and why can we not figure out who he is? And technology plays a huge role in the story.
Yeah, and as we learned from mobsters that used to try and stay anonymous and undercover, certainly not John Gotti. They tried to do that so they can keep anonymity. It's hard to figure out who to take out or who to prosecute if you don't know who the boss is. But I suppose the guy pulling the strings, the puppet master, he knows, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's right. And he turns out to be a really smart guy. He's a venture capitalist, has a lot of money, so he has plenty of money at his disposal to attack what's going on in the country.
Wow. That's pretty wild. Now, this is kind of a journey. You spent a lot of years at Microsoft and technology with, being nerdy with the pen things. I forget what they're called. The things that go in your pocket.
Yeah, pocket protectors.
Yeah, the pocket protectors. I think that's standard procedure wearables for Bill Gates.
For sure.
I almost said the guy, the Apple guy.
Steve Jobs, yeah.
Yeah, and then somehow I fell into the other one. But I'll just, I'll make it through this show somehow, and having a seizure, clearly. So what got you into this? How did you wrote a first book on just Xbox and the business sort of aspect of working there and stuff. What made you jump into this series and find a love for writing, I guess, novels?
When I left Microsoft, I started doing some writing, and I wrote this book called Xbox Revisited, which is a strategy book. It's a nonfiction business book, very typical ex-CEO executive talking about the things that we did to build and create and fix the Xbox business. Love that book. I use it today for a lot of my consulting and guest lecturing that I do. I finished it. I discovered 2 things. 1, I really like to write. That was fun. And 2, nonfiction is really not very exciting. And so I decided to challenge myself and started to write. I wrote literally 100 pages of character sketches of these 5 main characters and a day in their life, and then how those characters interacted with each other. And that was the beginnings. I didn't even know I was writing a thriller at that point. I just thought I was writing fiction. And that was the beginnings of what became the Wilkes Insurrection.
Wow. Now, why did you name it the Wilkes Insurrection? Can you tell us that? I don't want to give away anything that's in
the bad guy's name is Ford Wilkes. There is a theme in the book around Lincoln So you can imagine Ford Wilkes, John Wilkes Booth. You can see some of the connections there. So there's both of these books, because they're contemporary, and Tamika's becomes a U.S. senator and all those kinds of things. There's a lot of government, democracy, what contemporary things that are going on in the U.S. that is in both of these books. Lincoln Coalition and Lincoln references seem very fitting, and they do fit into the plot and what's going on.
These novels are very popular in suspense and a little bit of military and political intrigue. Makes for great sort of spyish sort of novels. I don't know, would this classify as a spyish, though? I may have thrown it under the bus when I said that.
No, the first one is a little less of a spy novel. This second one is definitely a spy novel. The second one is kind of this mix of what I'll call old school espionage, Russians against Americans, and new age cybercrime, as I discussed earlier on the mafia connection. So it's a blend of those two things, which I think is really kind of cool.
How is this working out for you so far? Obviously, the first one's successful. They had you do a second book, because if your first book bombs, they usually don't ask you to do a second one. What's your vision for the series, and other work that you might want to do? Like some authors have multiple series and multiple characters that they can.
Yeah, I will. Writing is one of three things I do. I spend a lot of time in the nonprofit space. I'm very involved in Boys and Girls Clubs, Habitat for Humanity, an organization called the Bipartisan Policy Center. So that's one part of what I do. I do a bunch of public speaking, and then I do my writing. So for me, having one series is just enough. I couldn't possibly write more than one book at a time. The reason I write, sort of two ways. One, I just love the sheer entertainment of writing something that people enjoy. So if you get to the end of the Wilkes Insurrection or the Blockchain Syndicate, I want you to say, wow, that was really fun, interesting. I couldn't put it down. And then the second reason I write, and this is why I write contemporary fiction, is I want people to pause and think, oh, that actually made me think about what's going on in the world around us. So there is these novels aren't just sort of the classic sit on the beach, semi-repetitive, trashy thriller novels. There's some thought in the themes that flow through it and what happens to my characters.
That works pretty well then. So are you going to focus then on just building this out? Keep building out?
Yeah, the next phase will be, this isn't giving anything away, but the last line in the Blockchain Syndicate says things would probably get worse before they get better. So that's a lead into the next novel, and so I'm plotting now to have things get even worse, and then presumably, hopefully, help them get a little bit better.
Who hurt you, man? You're just making things worse. Your poor character is really. I went through all this crap in this book, and now I got to do another.
Yeah, it's it's a little bit the nature of the genre, and it's also a little bit of the challenges of all the crazy stuff going on in the country, right? And the world. I mean, the world around us is a crazy
stuff going
place.
on. I
don't know. Maybe.
You gotta love it.
Yeah. So it's, to me, that's what's fun is mixing what's actually going on with fiction and with fictional characters and kind of blending those two things. That's super exciting for me.
It's been kind of so weird lately with some of the things that are going on in the world. And of course, AI is bringing a lot of that into our world, and disruption and yada yada. And it seems to be that I'm just going to get the tattoo of the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times, and that way I can just, anytime I'm complaining, I can look at it and just be like, hey, you do live in interesting times. Got that going for you.
If you're a fiction writer, it's actually a problem because, one of the things you do as a fiction writer is you try to write things that are just barely believable, but far enough out and a little bit crazy that it sort of entices people. And the problem is things are so crazy right now, it's hard to figure out what's
crazier.
What's crazier?
It's hard to figure out what's crazier. You're like, I don't know. I just read the news. I don't know how I can build on that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Exactly. People are eating tree bark now or something. I don't know. But where did you get the wherewithal for understanding, maybe research or something, understanding, maybe some of the guns and aspects of, these sort of novels, maybe the gunplay, some of the different, a lot of the guys that we have come on the show that do novels like this, they were in the military.
Sure.
And so where did you kind of dig up or research maybe that you did that helped you kind of figure out how to flesh out the characters and some of the scenarios they get into?
There's parts of this that are sort of native to me. So in my case, I'm not in the military, but I worked for a technology company.
You did work for Microsoft. There's probably a lot of gunplay in that.
No gunplay, but a lot of tech, and technology plays a role in all of these books. So the tech part of it is sort of my background. I also spent a lot of time in the civics and policy space, so I have some of that in my background. And then for other things, I do a lot of research. I interview a bunch of people. There's a scene in the book that involves an airplane. And how do you track an airplane, and how can an airplane hide itself, and all those kinds of things? It turns out one of my friends from Microsoft flew F-4s in the Israeli Air Force. And another one of my daughter's friends is a commercial pilot for Delta Airlines. So I talked to them, and they sort of gave me the ins and outs on how tracking works and how those things work. Tamika Smith's in the Air Force. Two of my fellow board members on a couple of boards I'm on are Air Force generals. I spent some time talking with them. They've connected me with other Air Force people. You go and do the research. For the Blockchain Syndicate, through my connections at the Bipartisan Policy Center, I got a tour of the U.S. Senate because a couple of the scenes take place on the Senate floor, and I needed to be able to see that to sort of describe it. It's a combination of my background, the work I do, and the people I meet. And sometimes you have to go to extreme measures. Once I had to take an Amtrak train to see what the inside of an Amtrak train looked like, and so I could describe it. You do things to get as real as you possibly can. Yeah.
We have a lot of novelists that come on the show, and they'll tell me, I set the novel in Paris so that I could have an excuse to go there and do research. I'm like, that's pretty smart. They're like, last time I went to Venezuela or, Argentina, whatever, pick your country. And they're like, just every time I write a book, I go someplace I haven't gone to that I want a vacation.
You'll laugh. I was talking to a fellow author, and he said, tomorrow I'm going to Finland to do research for my book. And I was like, okay, dude, you don't really understand how this is supposed to work. Finland is not the place you go to do research on a book. I mean, do you really want to go to Finland in December? That doesn't seem like a good strategy.
They have a good red light district. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what I could do. It's just
who knows in Finland?
It is cold there, though.
Yeah, and it's cold and dark in December. It's really dark.
Yeah, if you like skiing, that might be the place to go.
Yeah, maybe.
That or just looking at Russians through the scope. So.
Yeah, there's that too. There's better places to go skiing. Anyway, I do think, like the Blockchain Syndicate, I spend a lot of time in the Netherlands. My wife is Dutch, so a meaningful portion of the book takes place in the Netherlands.
Oh, so my red light district.
Your red light district was a good reference.
I was just one country off. There
exactly. Good reference.
Good. Yeah, we pull a good one every now and then. Every now and then we get a joke right on the show. So people are going to read these books, and we've had the Tom Clancy folks on the show, everybody but Tom Clancy himself, and lots of the novelists that write these series of books, and people love them, man. They eat them up. They fall in love with the characters. Pretty soon they start telling you what your characters are up to, and you're like, "What? I wrote the book. What?" We have one of our authors we have on regular. She's a wonderful lady, and I think she's almost 90, and she's written 60 or 70 books with multiple threads and trees, if you will. And people have come up to me and told me about my characters. One time it came up and said, "Do you understand that character you've written like 15 books on is a serious alcoholic?" And she was like, "Oh, wow. No, I didn't realize that." But her previous husband, or her last husband, was a alcoholic, and so she was writing. You write what you know.
It is true that people always ask me which one of the characters in your book is you. I get asked that question a lot, and the answer is, in my case at least, no, none of these characters are me. But of course, the people I interact with, myself, business folks I meet in the business community, folks I meet in the nonprofit space, you get influenced by the things you know. And sometimes consciously you build that in, like in this case, I know some venture capitalists, most of whom are good people, a couple of whom I don't think are great people. And I picked my venture capitalist in this story is not a great person. So, but it also happens subconsciously where you're not really even thinking about it. And suddenly you get to the end and you read the character and said, oh, that's a little like, name a friend, name a person you know.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not.
You write what you know. That's
Exactly.
really important, folks. Do you find how do your characters come to you? Because we have a lot of people on the show, the characters like literally talk to them and annoy them into writing the book. And I don't know if that's, I mean, for me, anytime people talk to me, it's one of my 12 personalities. And and the judge says I can't talk to the one that says kill, kill, kill all the time anymore. Ankle bracelets come off next week. But but how many times can you do that callback joke on the show, Chris? I don't know. There's 2,500 shows or 2,600 shows. How do your characters work with you? Do they stalk you, or are you able to kind of contain them?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, there's some characters who are with me. And then it's not really that they stalk me, but I know them so well. Tamika Smith, as an example, even though she's a mixed race woman in the military and now a senator, I know her very well. I feel like when I'm writing her, it's super easy. It comes off the page and I can be authentically her. There are other characters who I have to work a little bit more challenging for me, and I have to work harder at them. Do any of them stalk me? That's an interesting question. I have one character who has to talk to himself. He's a technology nerd who lives in a basement and is a super technical whiz. But, he never really meet anybody by design in the story. And so I can't have him in his own head the whole time. So he talks to himself, and that's how I get dialogue in the chapters on him. And so I suppose he sort of stalks me a little bit in that way. But, Tamika's with me all the time. I take the dog for a walk. I'm trying to solve a book problem. And, sometimes that's how it works out.
It helps if you dress up like your character. So maybe
I'm not going there.
They don't say that, folks. I just made that up for funny. Right now, somebody's going, we should write that down. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to me what authors tell me about their relationships with the characters, and I'm jealous because I'm stuck in writing business books, and right. I wish I could have that imagination or maybe other voices in my head other than the kill one that would make it easier to write, because I just got nothing. All I got's business stories and a collection of that crazy stupid stuff I did all my life, and that's it. That's all I got. So I'm jealous you guys have that.
For me it's one of those things. This is going to sound really silly, but after I finished the first book, The Wilkes Insurrection, people said, are you going to write a second one? And I said to them, yeah, Tamika's story's not done. I feel like I have an obligation to tell her story. Mm-hmm. And, so you do make connections and have an affiliation and have a relationship with the characters in your stories. That happens. Now, then there's the bad guys. And, I don't know if I don't think I actually have a relationship with any of the bad guys. Although in the Blockchain Syndicate, there's a Russian named Nastya Andropov, who she's a bad person, but I really like her as a character. So you can work both ways.
Nastya, wasn't she with Bullwinkle and that one guy?
No, that was, let's see, who is that? No, that was what's her name?
Her name was Boris, like Nastya.
It was Boris and
Natalia.
Natalia, yeah.
That's where that reference popped into my head from. I was like, hey man, I think I know this one.
Yeah, that was Boris and Natalia.
Boris and Natalia. I can't even quote from that.
That's the Bullwinkle show. That's
Bullwinkle show when we were kids. Love that show.
That's very funny.
When should people expect the next book from you?
That's a good question.
Going right into the spot.
Certainly not in 2026 because I haven't started, but maybe 2027. We'll see. I now have, in a strange way, with the second book, I didn't feel any urgency. The first book did really well. I was very happy with it, but I didn't feel any urgency. Now I feel like the story has enough momentum that I feel like I have some urgency. So hopefully in 2027. You
know what you do? You get one of those contracts where they have a gun at your head. That fixes that. That fixes that.
That's hard for me because this is, writing's for me 30% of my time. And, when I get a chance to do it, I got to be super efficient. And thankfully, I enjoy doing it.
Do you try and write an hour a day at least? Some people, they follow a thing. They're like, you got to write often and stay on top of it.
I find that I do better when I don't write often. I know that sounds a little strange.
Yeah.
I find that I'll write in chunks. So I'll have a week where I'll have 3 or 4 days. I'll clear my schedule and I'll write 3 hours a day. And I'll get a ton of work done. Then I'll have to travel and do a board meeting or do something else. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll come back. And the good news is, the bad news is I have to reread and do some editing on what I've written. But the good news is I come at it fresh.
Oh.
I've been gone a little bit. And so I don't, in the 3 books I've written, the nonfiction book and the 2 fiction books, I've never had the look at a page and stare at it and not be able to write. That has not happened to me. And I think partly that's because I step away from it. I have author friends who say I write 1,500 words a day no matter what happens.
Yeah. I do that. I do that in my relationships. I'm like, I think I can be better in this relationship. I leave for a while and then come back.
That's a different problem, a different tactic.
Now you know why you've been married for 44 years, was it? And
40 years, yeah.
Yeah, I can't make it past 45 minutes on a date. Yeah, you have something I don't. So as we go out, tell people a final pitch out on the book, on where to pick it up, .coms, where they can find you, all that good stuff. And
you can on Xbox. You can buy the book anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local independent bookstore. I love to support independent bookstores, so find a local independent store and head there. You can find me at RobbieBach.com, just like it sounds. You can find, if you type in the Wilkes Insurrection or Blockchain Syndicate, you'll get to a .com site for both of those. There's video trailers there, character descriptions, scene descriptions, lots of background on the books, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
They certainly are. You got a second book and a third one on the way, so people will definitely want to check it out. Thank you very much for coming to the show, Robbie. We certainly appreciate it. We didn't get your what game console do you run on now, or do you want to tell us? I don't want to.
Okay, so this is the best part of the story. So I ran the Xbox business for 10 years. I love the business. I love the products. I love the creativity. I don't play video games.
What?
I know, that's crazy. If you go on Xbox Live, there's a gamer tag called Xbox, XBACHS.
Oh, really?
And that is my original gamer tag, but it is now my son.
Oh,
has been for a long time. He's actually good. So if you want to play against my son, you can find Xbox online and give it a shot.
He's going to have everyone contacting him, or people can contact you on your website and be like, hey, that red light's on. What do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. He's going to he's going to tell me, Dad, don't put my gamer tag on the line. That's not good.
The red light of death. I think I heard about it.
Yep, that was on my watch. The Red Rings of Death was on my watch. We could talk. We could have a whole other show on that.
Yeah, we'll have another show on that. You're welcome to come back anytime. I'd love to get I'd love to get the dates. What's it like personally working with Bill Gates? I think you worked with him, right?
I did. I worked pretty closely with him, particularly on Xbox. And as a person, people won't think this. He has a great sense of humor. He's actually quite funny. He has a sort of a wry, dry sense of humor. Quite funny. Obviously, super smart, maybe the most competitive person I know.
Really?
But I learned so much from him and from Steve Ballmer. I worked directly for Steve for 7 years. I learned so much from both of them. And they both are really competitive. They're demanding. Not every meeting was easy, but it was never personal. It was always about the business, and I learned a ton from them.
Does he read? Just he always portrays himself to be reading. Like I'll see him on like sailboats and he's got a book and he's reading, and I'm like,
Bill reads nonstop.
Wow.
He reads nonstop, and he reads the range of stuff he reads is pretty wide. This is not a narrow field. He reads a lot of different stuff, and that's. I could bring guys on my team who were deeply technical in an area where you might think Bill didn't know anything. I'd bring them to a meeting. They would start a conversation, and it was clear that Bill had read up and knew which questions to ask and could figure out. He had a good BS meter with the guys who didn't know what they were talking about. He's a unique individual. And look, he and his ex-wife will do more for the world in what they do in the nonprofit space and the money they give away than they ever did in the tech space.
I think the way they lead in that space is really good. It's too bad USAID got shut down. I think he was talking about that recently. It's super sad. Unfortunately, people are dying as a result, and he's pretty upfront, frank about that. Yeah. And that's sad. I always remind myself I need to be more like him and read more books. I try and audiobook consume as much as I can, But, reading, you not only learn to be better as a writer, but it really activates the brain, keeps the brain sharp and having a good imagination, understanding things. Yeah, I've had those CEOs where you can be working on a project for 2 months and you're at a wall and you're stuck, and he comes in to help, and within 5 seconds he knows the answer, and he's no, you just do that with this. And how long you guys been working on this? We've been beating our heads against the wall for 2 months. And you just walked in here and told us the answer.
Here's the hard part. I will tell you. That experience I've had with Bill and Steve, no question. But I've also had the experience where they thought they knew the answer, and then you got to tell them you think they're wrong. That is always a fun experience. And the good news in both of their cases, if you had facts to back it up, they would listen and change their mind. But it was always interesting.
I would just always hold up that video of Ballmer making fun of the iPhone and how it was never going to work. Steve unfortunately
there's a lot of videos that Steve would prefer weren't out there. But, he's a super energetic guy and, crazy smart. And,
as long as you hit more home runs than you hit foul balls, you win a game.
Yeah, and they both have had their share of home runs. That's for sure.
Thank you very much, Robbie, for coming on the show. We certainly appreciate it. Please come back for the next book when it comes out.
I'll be happy to do it. Thanks for having me on, and all the best in the holiday season.
Thank you. You too. The holiday season. People watching 10 years from now in May are going, what? So that's why I always date things on the show, because there's literally people that will write me and be like, hey, you review the Xbox 360. I actually have a big review of the Xbox 60. It's got 360. It's got 1 trillion views on it or something. And people write me and be like, hey, you know that the price on that isn't the same anymore. And I'm like, dude, look at the date on the video. And they're like, why are you reviewing the Xbox 360? It's 2025. You're like, dude, the video's 15 years old. It's just crazy. So folks, pick it up wherever fine books are sold. Stay away from those alleyway bookstores. You might get mugged, or I don't know, you might meet the Russian assassin in the book. The Blockchain Syndicate, a contemporary thriller, out October 21st, 2025 by Robbie Bach. Thanks for tuning in. Refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives, or I'll haunt you at night and make noises under your bed so you think there's a monster under there. It might be the monster under the bed. You never know. That's why you should always refer the show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places. And be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
That has us out.